You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay on Newstalk 980.
Irv, good to see you again. How have you been?
Fantastic, Dave.
You know, so I'm looking back at, we talked about this on our last program, talking a bit about, how January and the, early winter and the winter, people go, oh, it's a bad time to list and don't want to put the home up for sale. I want to wait until, the grass is showing and get the first little bit of the bulbs and things coming up. And boy, the numbers are out. And are they ever wrong?
Well,
not the numbers, but the people who say don't do it.
Well, sure. I don't know how many years we've been doing this show. 3 or 4 years, and we talk about this every winter.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about the market isn't determined by weather. It really isn't. Some of the greatest months I've ever had in real estate were frightfully cold, and this January is a great example. The weather wasn't that great.
Mm-mm. We had some real cold spells. You're going to get the little bit of a break in there, but it was cold.
Yeah,
it's cold.
It was cold. And we had a fantastic January. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. We looked at the numbers, and we thought it was going to be a pretty good January. And the numbers are in, and it's a record January for prices and sales. So, these people just really... And many agents as well just really think the spring market is better than the winter market. And it is supply and demand. It's trends of buyers. It's interest rates. It's all of those things. And you have to pay attention to that, whether you are a buyer or you are a seller, and capitalize on the market. And so many people don't do that. They have this seasonal thing that is stuck in their mind, and that doesn't work, because you remember when we talk about great markets, 2007, if you did that and put your house on the market in June, you would have got, in a $250,000 home, you would have got approximately $30,000 less by the end of July than you would have in January, February, March, April, and probably part of May. So you got to watch the market.
Well, and it's reflected, too, in the number of listings. If you look at the listings that were available, the homes that were available on MLS in January, it was 400 and change, I think,
right.
You were saying, and over 200 sales. That's a pretty brisk month.
Sure, and we had a good number of homes come on the market, and typically if that would have happened in January, we'd have high inventory. We had a lot of buyers out there, and we had a lot of sales. So it really was in every way a very, very good January. And we predicted that we were going to have a pretty good year, and it's kicked off great, and it should be a great year in real estate in Regina.
All right, question on the January. It seems to me, and I could be wrong here, people who are looking to buy a home in January are motivated buyers. I mean, it's not one of those things where, hey, let's go cruise around in minus 30 and look at homes for giggles.
There is no question they are. If they're out there in this weather and these roads, and their agents out there, getting the agent out there, they're very motivated. So, you don't get that very often. You don't get that spring buyer that, every spring, they go out and they look around, and this is the year they're going to buy a condo, and they're safe and secure in their house, and they go and look every spring for 5 years and don't buy a property. So those aren't the people you get in January. You get real buyers most of the time.
I want to talk about some of the things you've already touched on briefly here, from both the seller's point of view and from the buyer's point of view. You touched on interest rates. We recently had a quarter-point hike in the 3 to 5 year fixed term, I believe. They're starting to inch up. There's anticipation that possibly the Bank of Canada could be raising rates anywhere from a quarter of a point to a full point, perhaps by the end of the year. So this is it seems to me this is going to be a hotter market and a more fluid market before kind of those interest rate changes perhaps trickle down. Is that accurate?
Sure it is. And what happens when we see the increases in interest rates most of the time is those complacent buyers jump into the market. And I'm not saying particularly that's what happened in January. I don't know that for sure. But there's an indicator that interest rates are going to go up more. They're lowering amortization lengths as well, so interest rates going up. Can't get a mortgage for as many years, so that spurs buyers on that they want to make a move, and that heats the market up. I think December of 2000, we sold more homes in December of 2000, if I recall correctly, than we did in April of 2000, and there was a big lowering of the interest rates.
Right.
So, you know, the interest rates going up, you can get more action in the market. Interest rates going down. It's when everything stays the same, sometimes isn't the best for the market.
Because people are just, I can wait till next month or do it whenever.
Sure, 1.75 interest rates. Well, that's the standard. I don't have to get into the market right now, right? So
they
it
weren't
can be
around
good.
in the late 80s, were they?
No, they weren't. They sure weren't.
Let's talk also about the records. Now, there was a January record, but also there was another story out talking about the 10-year average price and the increase, and we led the way in terms of the added value or added equity that in the housing market. We had the steepest increase in 10 years. Is it just that hot, or were we playing catch-up for there in the middle?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that, because earlier on this week I was interviewed on Newstalk regarding this increase in the 10-year increase, and they asked me, you know, how long you had been in real estate, and I said 20 years. What was the average price of a bungalow 20 years ago? And it was in the low 60s. And so we went from the low 60s to 270, or, you know, it'll be over 280 this year, I'm sure. But really, when you look at that graph, the graph was such that in 1991, the year I started in real estate, and I said when they interviewed me, it had nothing to do with me starting, but prices started to go up the year I started in real estate. But it was very, very slow. And it was very, very slow from 91 right through to 2007. And so when they look at, you know, and they give you these numbers of 10 years, it really is 4 years. Because 2007 was a very hot market, and so was 2008. So when you look at that increase, it's really 2007 to the end of 2010, and we're just beginning 2011. So, you know, when you talk about that 10 years, you really can compress it to 4 years of large increases.
Of substantial gains.
Sure.
So now moving forward, I wouldn't expect that we're going to see that type of an increase over the next 4 to 5 years, but still steady. I mean, we have population in migration. We have people moving here all the time, and even if interest rates and other things perhaps slow the market just a little, you got to think that new people coming to the province is going to keep demand high and keep the market moving.
It should offset that unless those interest rates really climb, and I rather doubt that. And so I think the economy, the confidence that people have in the province, the migration, I think we're going to see some nice increases. They're not going to be double digits like in 2007, but you know, a 2, 3, 4% increase is a pretty nice increase if you own a $300,000 home.
And it's compounding every year.
Every year.
Need to take a quick break. Stay with me through the break, Irv.
Sure.
By the way, you can get lots of information on Irv's website, a great resource for you, how to interview an agent, questions you need to ask, things you need to know. All the information is there. www.irvsells.ca. That's www.irvsells.ca, or you can call Irv at 790-3753, 790-3753. We come back, Irv, I want to talk about the big January myth. I want to get into that just a little bit. Sure. You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay from Century 21. He's here to help you turn the key. Back after this.
On Newstalk 980.